The basement, where nerdiness thrives, and grown men rant about toys.
What's up, fucking basement dwellers?
To a very special episode of Fresh from the Basement. This is the Graveyard Smash.
It was a graveyard smash.
And we're hoping it catches on in a flash.
Yeah, we tried to do this last year. Frank came up with the idea last year, but for me, like, these last 3 months of the year are incredibly busy. And we're lucky enough we have today. We can even do a couple if we can. Cause I'm on vacation. I always take Halloween off. But the idea is Frank picks a film and I pick a film, and we both talk about them.
Some personal horror favorites. And the idea was to, like, spread them out into several episodes, like, throughout the Halloween season. And, like, that's, like, hopefully, like, what this will become in the future. But for now, we're just kind of, like, testing it out. I figured, like, we would each pick a movie and talk about it in one big episode just to see what people feel about it. And hopefully this becomes, like, an annual thing. Because I like doing something special for the Halloween season. It's arguably my favorite time of the year. It's kind of hard between this and Christmas to, like, stack up which is your favorite. But, man, like, Halloween might just take it just because...
Yeah.
Well, we're natural-born horror fans, and this is just our time to thrive, you know?
Yeah. Like.
So, yeah, I've been doing a lot of different festive things. Like, last night, a beach by my house was doing, like, a haunted trail, so we went over there. It was a pretty cheesy setup. It was just a bunch of guys, like, jumping out at you in costume, but it was this dark fucking maze, and you don't know where you're heading, but you hear, like, music in the distance, and by the time you reach the end of this maze, by the time he's jumped out at you, you are engulfed with fog, and you come out the other side, and there's just a band in costume playing, like, old 70s jams.
Rad.
And there's just a whole party going on in the back. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, we had Friday. We hit up Netherworld. Every year we try to go to a couple haunts. But if we can only make one, we always hit up Netherworld because it's so friggin' amazing. And then we hit up our buddy's Halloween party last night, and I got wasted, man. I rarely go over my limit, and I went over my limit last night. And I'm hanging out of the, they got like this tiny little house in the backyard of their, where they hold all their parties, and I'm just hanging out of the doorway, just barfing in the fucking yard. I'm like, yeah, this is where I want to be.
Oh, shit. We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. So, the first movie.
Right?
Huh?
I said, 'tis the sea.
Yeah. You know, you're breaking up a little bit.
So, shit. I'm checking my mic. It's the same mic I've been using, and it's connected. So, there is a storm going on around my house, though, so that maybe could be cause for interference.
Right on. So, we're going... Huh?
We each picked personal favorites. We each picked personal favorites from our horror collection. So my personal choice for today was Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2.
Yeah.
Travis, why don't you tell him your pick?
Oh, yeah, my pick is Scream, the first Scream. So, we're going to talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 first because, it came out. In fact, it's as old as I am. It was born in 1986.
And before we even get into the movie, I want to talk about how interesting these two picks actually really are, because when you look at both of them, we both picked somewhat farcical movies,
Yeah, yeah.
which is fascinating. They're both kind of deconstructions of the slasher movie.
Oh my
And I
god.
guess they just come down to which does it for you. This was like a recent personal favorite of mine. I didn't watch this movie until maybe like a year or two ago.
Damn.
But like since then, I've seen multiple times with like different friends and family. Like I just spread this movie to everybody, and everybody I've shown it to just absolutely fucking loves it. And it's strange that a movie like this works because it's such a departure from what the original was, which the original was one of the first movies that like genuinely got on it. Like I felt unnerved throughout that whole movie.
Yeah,
It makes you enter like a different space.
Yeah, the original is still one of my favorite horror movies, and it's fucking dark, it's unsettling, and fucking it's just cool to watch, man. The whole atmosphere and vibe, and everybody talks about the documentary feel. Like it looks like it was filmed on some of the shittiest cameras, and it almost makes you feel like you're there.
Characters don't act normal. Even like the protagonists are kind of unnerving people. You got people like Franklin, and they're just a bunch of weird hippies. But I don't know, man. Like it's mesmerizing to look at. You know what I mean? There's just such an aesthetic to the film, and it's such a simple premise, but there's so much that you could dissect from it.
Yeah.
I was listening to the Dead Meat podcast where they were going into Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there is like so much people have read into this film and studied, and theories on what it all means. Like it really is pretty remarkable that a horror film has sparked like this much discussion. You know what I mean? It transcends the genre.
Yeah.
But then you get Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which
is what, 12 years later?
12 years later, and panned when it came out. Like, I don't think anybody really got this film when it came out. But now, with time, like a fine wine, I think it's become the fan favorite of the series. Because the first movie is something that really does get under your skin. It's not something you would want to watch every day. It's a masterfully put together movie, but it's not something that, you're in the mood to watch all the time. Whereas what I found with part 2 is that this is a movie you could just pop in at any time and have a good time watching it,
Yeah. It's a little weird, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, where it's odd that it's made by Tobe Hooper as well. And it's odd but kind of awesome that when he finally decided to do a sequel, he decides to go the dark comedy route. Complete 180 away from his original.
Which is interesting because Tobe Hooper, on several occasions, like, he always at least claimed to view the original movie as a comedy as well.
Yeah.
But I really just comes from the fact that he made it, so he knows, like, all the behind-the-scenes shit that happened, and this is pretty much like him and a bunch of his fucking buddies, like, pretty much making a movie.
Yeah.
So, of course, it would be funny to him, and I could somewhat see what he means. There is comedic elements to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah,
but
especially,
not
like,
at this
Grandpa
heightened
dropping
level.
the hammer, trying so hard to bash that dude's head.
Like, the movie has Franklin in it, you know what I mean? Like, enough said. He's a fucking Looney Tunes character. But he's great. But this movie just goes above and beyond. Starting off from, like, the first frame, really, with the yuppies shooting the gun, like...
Yeah. I love
you
that
are
part.
in a completely different world.
When the,
I do as well. One, I don't know what's up with the guy's fucking glasses. They're some of the best fucking glasses I've ever seen. I love the soundtrack choice during the sequence that they actually, we could shout out to Oingo Boingo, you know?
Yeah, fucking Oingo Boingo. And fucking, I love the, when Leatherface shows up, and it's that weird corpse. It almost looks like a Halloween decoration.
Yeah.
But,
And he's waiting around.
yeah, waving that chainsaw around and all that, and
There's actually a funny, like, little connection between the first movie and the second movie, because the corpse that Leatherface and Chop Top carry around is actually the hitchhiker from the first movie.
which would make sense because Chop Top is his twin brother.
Yeah, he probably feels, like, connected to Nubbins, carries him around like a fucking Jeff Dunham puppet.
Yeah, and like, I love Bill Moseley's role, man. I love the way he acts in here, man. It's so freaking wild. And
Whenever you watch a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, the advertising and the marketing always makes Leatherface out to be like the highlight character, but I think this is the only occasion where a family member who's not Leatherface has overshadowed
yeah,
Leatherface. And it's a completely different character. Bill Moseley got the part from doing a fan film where he played the hitchhiker.
yeah,
And he
yeah.
was doing his impression.
They showed it to Toby Hooper and he liked it and was like, you know what? If I do a sequel, I'm throwing you in there.
But what I like is that when he actually got to playing Chop Top, he didn't just do the hitchhiker impression. He really did make it his own. You
Yeah.
can tell that they're like similar characters, but still two completely different entities.
Yeah, and then you gotta love the title of that short film, The Texas Chainsaw Manicure.
And this was like his first big role, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you know what, man? I hate that Bill Moseley is one of those dudes that he definitely went places, but man, this dude definitely belongs.
In bigger movies.
Yeah, man, like.
Recognized like by a more mainstream public, because he really is an outstanding performer. He really doesn't do the same thing twice.
Yeah, because I love. But I love. Alright, the first time I ever saw Bill Moseley was in this movie, and in fact, this was the first Texas Chainsaw movie that I did see. I was probably 12. It was right around the time McFarlane Toys was making their first run of Movie Maniacs, and I'm like, what the fuck is Leatherface? Like, I know Freddy and Jason. What the fuck is Leatherface, man? And my dad's telling me, oh yeah, that's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, man. You need to see that. It's fucking wild. I'm like, hell yeah, man. But like, the video stores here never had the first one. Like, they only had Next Generation and 2. And so I just said, fuck it, man, I'll rent part 2. And I was like, dude, this is awesome. But then I never saw Bill Moseley again until Rob Zombie came along. And, you know, we get him as Otis. And I'm like, man, I fucking love this motherfucker too, man. But dude, the dude has done
Yeah.
some awesome shit, man, because he's done he's the lead singer of Cornbugs, which is Bill Moseley playing Chop Top, Buckethead playing guitar, and a dude named Pinchface from the Deli Creeps doing the drums. And it's so fucking cool, man. It's just rad, weird, avant-garde Buckethead music with Bill Moseley playing Chop Top and talking about pigs are people too. Pigs are people too. Highly recommend checking that shit out.
Did you see Three from Hell yet? Now we're talking about Bill Moseley.
No, not yet. But I am totally hyped.
Oh my, I've been meaning to check it out. I'm pretty curious because, like I've mentioned in the past, I'm not super into Rob Zombie's films, but when it comes to like the Devil's Rejects and those characters, like I cling to them. So I'm pretty interested to see where he takes them. It sucks that Captain Spaulding like just couldn't have been
Yeah.
a main character because of what happened. That's a tragedy, but I want to see how he integrates the new character in well.
Yeah, a lot of people are liking it, but I gotta see it, man. I gotta see it. Cause I'm a major fan of Rob Zombie's movies, and totally fucking hyped to see it. But I'm like, damn, man, how's he gonna end this one? That's what I'm wondering is. Like, are you just gonna have them all go out in the blaze of glory again, like, or are you gonna let them live? What's the deal? But with Leatherface, another guy who kind of steals the show in this movie is Dennis Hopper.
Oh, by far, man. And I really wanted to bring him up as well because I was watching the behind-the-scenes documentary of this, and everybody comes back to do an interview. I believe the DVD was released before Dennis Hopper had passed away.
Yeah.
But he always neglected this movie and called it the worst thing he ever did. And I just look back on the Super Mario Brothers movie and go, like, really, dude? Like Texas Chainsaw 2 is the worst thing you've ever done.
That is so true.
Say, like, I love Land of the Dead, but even that's worse than this.
Yeah, because, like, doesn't he get the dual-wielding chainsaws?
He looks like he had a fucking blast on this movie, and then once it's over, I guess he had to save face or something.
Yeah.
He's like, nah, man. But, dude, I really think this kind of inspired the Devil's Rejects in a way, because think about it, this was one of the first, like, occurrences where we see, like, this band of killers, and then we're following the sheriff, and it turns out the sheriff is crazier than the fucking killers. I think the Devil's Rejects did it in a lot more intense way, but kind of cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, man. And what's so weird is, why are they living in an amusement park now?
I've always wanted to know. I feel like maybe their old house got, like, figured out after a while. Like, maybe Lefty has been, like, on their tail for a while.
Oh, yeah, probably.
I feel like something could have happened. Like, once you kill a certain amount of people, you kind of got to migrate. But I've always wanted to see something that kind of explains how they got to Texas Battleland. Maybe
now they're feeding people the human meat, and he's going and winning awards and stuff.
Business.
It's so great.
I would love to see, like, a comic book, like, midquel, where you go from the first movie to the second movie, and it just progressively gets goofier and fucking crazier. It just goes from 70s to 80s, like, throughout the story. It would be really fucking sick.
Yeah, and I also like Jim Saito.
Yes.
Yes. He's really fucking good in this movie.
And he really hasn't changed much from the first movie. He's still kind of giving the same performance, amped up a level or two.
Yeah, like... But then you got to talk about Stretch, who she's pretty rad.
Yeah, I was gonna say she's probably my favorite slasher girl of all time because she really isn't a. She's not necessarily. I was about to say she's not a victim. No, she's definitely a victim. She gets put through a fucking lot, but she's not a fucking typical slasher chick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She has weight over the plot. She's the main character. She survives. She's actually killed off.
Say what?
She survives. She's not immediately killed off, and she has a personality, man. Like you really get a feel for who she is.
She's like a cool ass radio DJ chick, and
rock.
Yeah, she's into rock music, and I love the radio station. It's sort of design. Like, it's a cool looking little building. And then there's the she almost totally gives it up to fucking Leatherface. How good are you? How good are you? And Mad Leatherface is just sitting there like licking the lips of his nasty, rotted human face mask.
And that's the thing, she's technically not the typical horror movie virgin who survives.
Yeah, she's probably fucked a couple. Probably fucked a couple dudes. But yeah, I do like that this doesn't, it doesn't feel like your standard 80s slasher. It's got a lot more going on with it.
It's almost a meta commentary on the first movie in a way. It's an inversion.
Like, it's got comedic points in it, but it still gets pretty intense.
Oh, definitely. What I feel like they were going for, right, is when the original movie came out, it got a lot of press for being gory and being exploitative and all this stuff that the movie really wasn't. If you go and see the movie, there's not even really a drop of blood in the movie.
Yeah, like, there's not a lot of gratuitous violence in there. I mean, some of it's fairly hokey, like when the hitchhiker starts cutting open his hand and shit, like...
That's about it, but like when Leatherface is chopping people up, it's really tastefully done. When he puts the girl up on the hook, like, it's not like cutting the shots of her back getting hooked and shit. It's not...
Yeah, normally, mostly it cuts away from a lot of that stuff.
Which is, like, for the best. But I feel like what Tobe Hooper was going for was he saw that press, he saw the hype it was getting, he went like, all right, you guys want to see that kind of a movie then? I'll give you guys that kind of a movie. Here's just a fucking overblown, over-the-top gore fest of a movie. High-quality special effects by Tom Savini, no less.
Yeah.
The head chopping effect is fucking goofily amazing. Like, you can clearly tell it's fake, but... holy shit. The level of detail he put into that effect, like making dog food for the brains and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking wild. And this is kind of like, nothing really is going to top the first movie, so they didn't even really try. They wanted to make it its own thing.
Yeah.
And in terms of Texas Chainsaw sequels, it kind of stops here for me. You know what I mean? Like, 3 was decent, I guess.
Yeah.
It was kind of boring. 4, like, tried to do something more like this, but it just...
Are you talking about Next Generation? Oh, Next Generation kind of just sucks. But, yeah, like, to me, after this, none of them really interest me all that much. Even here recently... You're gonna make a direct sequel to the first one, but that was like over 40 years ago. Like, you've got a really young looking 40-year-old in your movie. I mean, it's supposed to be 20 years later. I mean, but why do we see an iPhone in there? Oh, it annoys me so much.
Yeah, it should have taken place in the 90s if they were going for that narrative.
Yeah.
they have so many other extended members of the Sawyer family that we didn't see in the first movie at all. I mean, it's there for the cameo points. They're like, we got to put fucking Gunnar Hansen somewhere.
Yeah.
But the only real cool thing about it was seeing Bill Moseley as Drayton. It was a nice little, like... It was a nice little switch up.
Yeah.
Still, he looks nothing like Drayton from the first movie, so the continuity is already just kind of... It's a valiant effort, but 3D really was probably one of the worst of the series.
And then Leatherface, oh my god, like, I'm just not gonna watch it. I'm not interested at all.
See it. Oh, man. Like, I've seen fan films get the Texas Chainsaw Massacre toned right better than the actual movies attempt to. And I think it just comes down to, like, you really can't make movies like this anymore. I know it's, like, a played-out thing to say, but it's true. Like, movies like this just don't exist today.
Yeah.
Even movies like Scream, when we get to that, like, I can never see a movie like that being released today either.
And not being entertaining. Which we'll get into the vibes of why Scream works so well to me. When we hit it up. But yeah, you can't, especially doing a sequel 12 years later that is completely different. Which, you know what, you probably couldn't do that back then too. Because, take for instance this and Halloween 3, and I mean, certain sequels that came way late, like I love Psycho 2 and Psycho 3. I mean, but they did original shit with them, like they did real original shit, and these two, this and Halloween 3, did original shit, but people were wanting Michael Myers again, and you know what? What did the people in 1986 expect a Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel to be? And I think really this is one of the best, because after this, like you said, Leatherface Texas Chainsaw 3 is just okay, and Next Generation it's fun garbage, and the remake, I don't mind the remake all that much. But
it's just, we've seen it done infinitely better in the original. There was really nothing that had to be remade, but again, all these bad Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies are saved by one performance. I'm going to call it the Dennis Hopper syndrome, because you always have that one big actor who you didn't expect to be in a Texas Chainsaw movie overact the shit out of his performance. So
like R. Lee Ermey in the remake and the prequel to the remake. Best things about those movies.
Matthew McConaughey in The Next Generation.
Yeah. Definitely. Which
kind of saved the movie in a way.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I watched the remake, is kind of for him, because he's not Drayton Sawyer, you know what I mean? He's a completely different kind of psychopath, but still believable.
Oh, yeah.
But I was never really a big fan of the Platinum Dude prequels and remake. Yeah. I think they were shot too slickly.
Yeah, they were that early 2000 real polished, very sleek looking, which in many ways is weird, because Scream kind of brought that in with the real polished kind of look. But I'd say more on the lines where like Scream 2 kind of really helped cement that look. And then in the early 2000s, it was like the remake syndrome was really going for that sleek-ass look, with the Friday the 13th remake and all that. And they even carried that over to the dog shit Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Man, I'm kind of glad that small
They're all the
era is
same.
over.
But I hate to compare it to one of my favorite bands, but when I look at the remake, I just feel like I'm looking at like a cattle decapitation album cover. You know what I mean? And it's for an album cover, but not for a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the remake was like, we're just gonna do things we're gonna get wilder. Like, instead of a hitchhiker that cuts his hand, we got a chick that pulls a gun out of her vag and shoots her freaking head. Like,
And what's it called? Hold on a second. I had a thought. Yeah, dude. The remake was never really my cup of tea. What's interesting about it, though, this was the thought. What's interesting about it, though, is that it was the same cinematographer of the original who
Yeah.
gave it that sleep look.
yeah.
Like, what the
And
fuck happened?
and didn't Marilyn Manson have something to do with the remake?
Did he? He might have.
I might have saw an article about that, but then I might just be wrong.
You have some new shit.
But yeah, I'm not seeing his name anywhere here, so yeah, probably nothing.
I mean, I wouldn't hold it against them putting like a song by him in like the end credits. And it's really weird that, you know, they get Rob Zombie to remake Halloween, but like Texas Chainsaw is just kind of what he's always been kind of emulating.
Yeah.
But I guess he had already, well, dude, was House of the Thousand Corpses 2003?
Yeah, that's when it was finally released.
So, I mean, I'm sure it was filmed way before.
Yeah, it was like, I think he was filming that shit back in like 99, man.
Yeah, so he was working on it, but it's so strange that, like, a movie that is somewhat Texas Chainsaw Massacre inspired comes out the same year.
He had the
as-
best Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake that year.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take 1,000 Corpses over it, honestly.
Yeah, House of a Thousand Corpses is one of my favorite horror movies ever. We gotta do a revamped version of our top 10 horror films. Because I'm like
Right?
trying to remember some of my picks. I'm like, you know, some of these are not very good picks for me. But
Well, horror is such, like, an
It's the same-
expansive
it's-
genre that it really comes down to, like, there's top 10, like, scary movies that, like, legitimately scare you. There's top 10 horror movies that you just like to pop in and enjoy. There's, like, top 10 horror comedies, you know what I mean? Like, there's so
Yeah.
much good.
that's
Right.
why it's so hard for me to like come up with definitive lists of favorites when it comes to music, especially because you know you're always gonna be your taste is always gonna change. Like 1 minute your favorite might be this, and 1 minute your favorite might be that. So it's really hard for me to make definitive numbered favorite lists.
It's really hard for, like, Evil Dead to not be number one for me. Like, that franchise is, like, so close to me. But, like, I could definitely look back on that top five and maybe switch things up around a little bit. I'm still pretty okay with my choices, but I would like to go back now that I've seen, like, many of the films that you listed. Like, at the time, I hadn't seen Creepshow, and now I have. Now I have a ton of
Creepshow is
shit on
amazing.
Creepshow. Dude, like, I can talk about Creepshow for hours.
Meteor shit.
Fucking, I have never seen such a terrifying performance from Leslie Nielsen in my life. That was
Dude,
probably my
right?
favorite segment. That was probably my favorite segment of the entire movie. But Stephen King steals the show. Fucking, is that Atkins from fucking Halloween 3 at the beginning?
I think so. Is it Tom Atkins?
Yeah. This movie's got names, bro.
I got my cake, Bedelia.
Dude, the cockroach one was fucking nauseating.
Dude, that one was gnarly, man. That shit was totally gnar.
Nar. Yeah.
You totally know her.
I like how Texas Chainsaw 2, it has a more polished look to the original. There's definitely, like, a higher quality, but there's still a unique grit of its own.
Oh, yeah. Definitely a very special kind of unique grit.
The first movie is like the grit of a snuff film, and the second movie is like the grit of a grindhouse movie.
I can see that.
And there's always this fucking romance that they tease with fucking LG and Stretch throughout the whole movie.
Yeah.
Leads all the way to the end. Okay, I love LG throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, he's a hardcore dude, man. Like,
just fucking in the studio.
Until at the end. Does he die? I can't remember. I think he does die.
His fucking face and like chest peeled off.
Oh yeah.
LG is like wearing his face, and before he dies, she puts his face back on.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Great.
That is rad. And then another thing I'd like to talk about is the poster going for that Breakfast Club look.
Yeah. That, like, it automatically should have indicated, like, I wanted to know, like, what people in 1986 were thinking when they saw that poster before the movie was released.
I mean, really, they're like, obviously it's telling you, hey, you know, we're being a little goofy.
I honestly feel like most audience members just didn't really think too much into it. But, like, come on, man, like, it's so, like, obvious, like, it's really on the nose that they're doing the Breakfast Club.
Yeah. Oh my god,
I think
yeah.
face fucking fist up being Judd Nelson.
Yeah.
And Leatherface I wanted to get into as well because it's not Gunnar Hansen anymore, it's Bill Johnson.
Yeah, and Gunnar Hansen is normally the guy you hear about. How many times did Gunnar actually play Leatherface?
Once. He is my personal favorite Leatherface because he is the original. I think he is the most frightening. But Bill Johnson's Leatherface is the perfect Leatherface for this movie. Where he's kind of just the lapdog of the Sawyer family.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like... It's almost like... It's weird because in the first movie he's kind of got the mind of a child. You know what I mean? He's overly emotional, easily frightened. You know, he makes all those childish noises. It's like, this movie is Leatherface going through puberty. This is him. This is teenage Leatherface. Which makes sense then by Texas Chainsaw 3. You have him listening to his fucking Walkman. He's listening to his hardcore fucking industrial metal. He's going through his fucking early teens, early 20s. But, I just think it's a weirdly sentimental performance, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's kind of a charming, like, element to Leatherface in this movie, which is insane to say, because the mask is even, like, more grotesque this time.
Oh, yeah. And one thing, too...
Like,
oh, keep going.
It's what it is.
So what?
The mask allows, like, his eyes to emote more, where in the first movie, the eyes are kind of sunken in. You can't really see them too well.
Yeah, you're right. And then there was a big scene that was cut from the film where the Sawyer family is heading out to collect meat for their chili, and they slaughter a bunch of movie patrons and a group of rowdy rioting fans. I wish that was still in there. And then there's another deleted scene that includes Joe Bob Briggs, man. Like, what?
are the scenes like available for people to see, or this is just what's been said? Because I've never seen the scene, but I love.
They are apparently present on the 2007 Gruesome Edition DVD special features section.
That's great because I think, yeah, I have the Gruesome Edition right here.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, there it is. The cutting room floor deleted scenes. So I'll have to check those out. Yeah, this movie seems right up Joe Bob's alley. I think that's the perfect cameo for.
Yeah, man.
It's great just to have his support in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, I always love when horror directors like throw a bone to the horror fans. You know what I mean? Like, show that they're all in the same world. They're all fans, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
By throwing in references, kind of like how Evil Dead. In the back of the car, there's a Fangoria. Mm-hmm. Here, there's Joe Bob.
Yeah.
And Chop Top's introduction is just one of the most, I would say, one of the most iconic moments in any slasher movie.
Yeah. How do they introduce him again?
He invades the radio station.
Oh yeah, that's when he's like using the hanger to like fucking scratch his head shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when he says, "Dog will hunt."
There's actually an effective jump scare in this moment because Leatherface is hiding behind the fucking rack the entire time.
Yeah.
Records are, and there's actually, like, when he flips on the light, it's actually a genuinely surprising moment, but fucking, that's the reveal of Chop Top's head plate. Yeah, and he's just picking the head cheese off of his scalp.
And on that Jerry Was a Race Car Driver by Primus, he samples, I don't know if that's an actual sample of Chop Top saying "Dog Will Hunt" or if that's Les Claypool himself saying it, but yeah, fun reference.
I think it is the actual soundbite, but I can believe, like, Les Claypool and fucking Bill Moseley have such similar voices sometimes.
They do, man. They damn sure do. Like, I would.
These dudes rent the factory. These fucking subhuman fucking weirdos.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I fucking love Les Claypool, Bill Moseley, Buckethead. That whole group of people is just... Cause they all know each other and work with each other.
Yeah.
There was going to be the All-American Massacre fan film from Tobe Hooper's son.
Yeah.
When not only was Bill Moseley and Buckethead going to do the music, I believe, but Buckethead was going to be Leatherface.
Yeah, I want to say that they filmed it, or filmed parts of it, then like they ran out of money.
Yeah, they ran out of money. I think there was also like a rights thing. Like, even though it was Tobe Hooper's son, like, it was made without the knowledge of the rights holders.
Yeah.
Bill Moseley claims that there's tapes of it out there, but I highly doubt it. But it would really be interesting to see because he really is, like, he's an underutilized character. It would be great to see him come back at least one more time because he really is what makes this film special.
Yeah. That's the damn truth.
With the Gruesome Edition, like I mentioned before, I saw the making of documentary. There's like a 6-part documentary, I believe, with everybody except for Dennis Hopper, like, doing interviews. And you get such a sense of, like, how much fun they had on this set.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories, because Caroline Williams fucking rocks the interviews, bro. Like, she is one of my favorite horror film actresses of the 1980s and early 90s.
Apparently she plays Stretch in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Yes, she shows up in 3 for a quick cameo.
That's rad.
It's never really made sense to me because she's like a reporter. Maybe she was doing it for her radio show, like they threw that in there, but I always thought she went nuts after this movie. I always figured she got like institutionalized or some shit.
Right.
But here she is, just in a nice fucking suit, reporting these murders again. But what do I know? So, she is great in the fucking interviews. And one of my favorite stories from her is when they're doing the grandpa scene with the bucket, because they bring that back from the original. They kind of redo the entire dinner scene just on a larger scale.
And every one of these movies redo the fucking dinner scene.
Yeah, it's just kind of a given at this point. But when they're doing the Grandpa Hammer scene, she mentions that like she has to scream, but the entire time she's laughing her ass off, and she's trying like when her head is in the bucket, she's trying to make her laughs sound like screams. And every time that scene comes by, like I'm really trying to spot like the laughs because that sounds just fucking hilarious.
Red.
The makeup on Grandpa is also updated. I kind of prefer the original Grandpa.
Yeah, he's way creepier and nastier in the original. And he looks old as fuck in the original.
Yeah, he almost looks younger in part 2 just because there's a lot more detail on his face, whereas in the first one, you really get the sense that he's so old that, like, his face pretty much just looks like a fucking raisin or something.
Yeah.
Like, there's really nothing to it at all. Grandpa in this movie just kind of looks like Dan Aykroyd from Nothing But Trouble.
Hell no.
But it's still a great effect. I remember there was they were talking about how they put like yellow contact lenses in his eye, and they really wanted to show off Grandpa's eye. So when you get that shot of like the zoom-ins on his eye or the close-ups, like that was a demand from Tom Savini. Toby Hooper didn't want to do it.
Huh.
But he's like, bro, we spent so much money doing this. Just show the eye, please. And Drayton Sawyer is still a fucking insanely wild and entertaining character. It seems like he's gotten even more senile over time. I've always loved how he's supposed to be their brother, but he really takes on like the parental family. You really
There's
see
a
everybody's
big Three Stooges vibe between Drayton, Leatherface, and Chop Top in this movie. And Drayton is definitely the Mo when they're all together.
Yeah.
Like,
Nubbins is
he's the boss. He's the one calling the shots. And but you're right. He does take on this parental, almost to the point where you do feel like he might be their dad or some shit.
to like the casual viewer, I feel like that's how it's always like been perceived. Because I remember when I first watched the original, that was my assumption, was that he was their father. It's not until like you do research into it that it kind of becomes apparent. Another one of my favorite. This movie's just full of great like tiny gags, like little stuff that just I find amusing. Like before Leatherface busts through the door and does like the dry humping scene, he's banging on the locked door, and I love how Stretch's only reaction is to yell "Go away!"
Yeah.
Like that's gonna work. And that's another thing I want to see, like, how the fuck did audiences react to the dry hump scene?
Oh, with the chainsaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when she's like, how good are you? How good are you?
I guess the one question is like, do you feel this movie in some way does line up with the original? Do you feel that way?
What do you mean, as,
Like, could you believe that this is the continuation? Like, you know what I mean? Or do you think, like, it would be more like the original? Like, are you okay with the direction they went in overall? Or if you were in the director's seat, like, would you have made the decision to go more original?
I do think this was a perfect sequel. It does feel like the continuation in a way, but it's like, how did we get here? Because you could assume a lot has happened in 12 years, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's one of the more interesting sequels because it doesn't do a lot of the same shit.
And, sorry, I'm watching. The reason I bring it up is because I always play these movies as fucking background noise and just for, like, reminders, and, like, the scene is playing right now. And it's still just fucking. It's still just as baffling as when I first saw it.
What scene is
Like,
that?
it's the dry hump scene.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it really just leaves you just fucking scratching your head, but, like,
How
at a
good
loss
are
of
you?
words.
She was about to bone Leatherface.
I believe she made a cameo in fucking Rob Zombie's Halloween 2.
Yeah, she did. I'm actually just looking at that now. She actually appears in Sharknado: The Fourth Awakens as Stretch.
Really?
Yeah, so now that makes Sharknado a part of the Texas Chainsaw universe.
So, and so now
Yeah.
is that too far? Like, you could accept Texas Chainsaw 2, but now this is just getting unrealistic.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say it's in the same universe. I'd say it's a fun little nod.
Alternate universe Stretch.
Um,
Another, like, weird thing that they don't really get into in the movie, but the script kind of hinted at the fact that Stretch might be, what's it called? Lefty's illegitimate daughter.
oh yeah?
Plot point they were gonna do, and that would in some way make Stretch related to Sally and Franklin from the first movie. I'm kind of glad they didn't put that in the final film, just because it kind of suffers from, like, Halloween 2 syndrome,
Yeah.
where you kind of have to make everything connected.
Yeah.
In a post-Empire Strikes Back world, like, everyone has to be family.
I know.
It's really trite, and I like how she's just some lady that Leatherface happens to get infatuated with.
Yeah.
And Lefty's a fucking crazy son of a bitch because he openly uses her as bait and then admits it.
Yeah, he does.
So by the time you really get to the climax, Dennis Hopper has gone full, like, Dog the Bounty Hunter mode with 3 chainsaws.
Yeah, dude. That is so rad.
He's fucking singing, and, like, he's pretty much gone full Batman. He's just taken the law into his own hands. So, like, what is your thought on the final climax between Stretch being chased by fucking Chop Top, Drayton with a grenade, and Dennis Hopper and Leatherface going at it with chainsaws?
The best is definitely the chainsaw duel. That's some really cool shit. Drayton and the grenade is probably like one of the most lame ass deaths. Even if you can, because obviously they didn't die, because 3 is definitely within continuity, but one of the most lame as fuck. Because what is it like? Somebody drops the fucking.
Pocket, like he just had it for safekeepings, I guess.
Yeah.
It really does kind of reek of, oh, we don't really know where else to go from here. Because once you have, like, Leatherface fighting with a chainsaw,
like there's no topping that.
where else do you go?
And I like it when she's climbing the tower, and at the very end, she's up there fucking just screaming and spinning the chainsaw. That's another thing that these movies kind of always end like that with the let's just spin a chainsaw. You know, Generation did the same fucking thing, and the first one did it. This one does it.
I really like the production design of Texas Battleland, though. How
Yeah.
they took the concept that they like to make art out of skeletons to like the biggest degree they can go. Like, there's so many references to different movies with the skeletons that it's kind of like blink and you'll miss it moments. Like, there's one skeleton in the background doing the pose from Doctor Strangelove. Like, they have him sitting on a bomb with like a cowboy hat.
Oh yeah.
They're just doing a ton of crazy shit with it. One of my favorite like gags in the movie is when Stretch is running down that giant corridor. One, like the shots that they did are phenomenal, the tracking shots. But she passes by each like row of skeletons, and they're all doing like different poses. And then there's just like two of them in like lounge chairs on the beach. And the music is also pretty notable because the first one wasn't even really music. It was more just like ambient, industrial kind of noise music. And this one goes for more of a traditional, not traditional score, because it's certainly it's a low budget movie, and the soundtrack is kind of like, it's not like one of the more notable parts of this movie, but I still wanted to talk about it because, one, I find it interesting that Tobe Hooper did the soundtrack, kind of taken from the book of John Carpenter, where you do the score to your own music. But there's a lot of hints back to the Bernard Herrmann Psycho score that I've seen in it, and a lot of horror movies do this. There's the scene where she's chasing the psychos back to Texas Battleland, and you get the blatant Psycho reference because she's driving in the car. It's a pretty similar shot, but the music, it does something pretty similar, but I don't know what he recorded the music on, because obviously, like, it's supposed to sound like strings, but it kind of sounds like it's coming off of a keyboard.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just an odd little soundtrack that somewhat fits the tone. Like I said, like much like how the first movie puts you in a certain headspace, I feel like this movie does the same, but it's just a radically different headspace.
That is definitely true.
That's pretty much what I have to say about this movie. I just wanted to have a casual chat about it, just because I feel like, I mean, you already know the movie has my recommendation, and I feel like it's a movie that is getting more recognition.
Yeah.
Especially recently, but I would just love to spread the word of it more, just because it's really easy to shit on a sequel, and I have a really big appreciation for sequels that do something completely out of left field and manage to accomplish it in a way that works. Very few sequels have that power, and I just wanted to highlight this one because it's easily one of my favorite sequels of all time.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's a cool ass movie. Plus, it's the first one that I saw, and at that point, I was already a Dennis Hopper fan because of Speed and all that shit when I was a kid, and so it was cool seeing him get batshit crazy in an earlier time, and yeah, it's a movie that a lot more people like it now than they did back then.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's got it's the Halloween 3 syndrome, People realize, damn, there was something special here, while the other ones are just trying to repeat what most people see as the original and what a sequel should be. So, I really recommend this one too. It's got the Del Vecchio stamp of approval. So yeah, I totally recommend it. It's one of the best sequels, especially in horror. I mean, there are a few horror sequels that I can really vouch for.
And what's weird about it is with its tone is that it goes over the top, but it never feels like it. It never feels like it jumps the shark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything feels kind of like everything feels kind of believable in this certain context, and maybe it's just because I've seen the movie too much to now where it becomes normal.
Yeah.
But when we get to Scream, that's kind of a point I want to make, where it's like this is farcical. I feel like Scream definitely plays up its comedicness a lot more, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. On that note, let me smoke a cigarette and then we'll talk about Scream. Okay, what's up, everybody? We are back, and we're talking about my pick for the Graveyard Smash. I keep wanting to call it the Monster Mash, because that's the more
popular lyric.
yeah. So I keep wanting to say that, but man, I have a lot of shit to say about this movie, and
yeah, I was kind of going to let you lead on this one because you seem to be like a super huge fan of this franchise, and already there's going to be somewhat of a divide because when I just watched this movie for the first time a couple of days ago, and I'll admit I wasn't crazy for it.
damn.
I didn't hate it. Like, there's stuff about it that I find admirable, but I don't know, something about it kind of threw me off a bit. Maybe it is the blatant, over-the-top tone of it, which again I can't really blame the movie for because that's kind of what it was going for overall.
Yeah.
I don't know, about it just didn't speak to me, and I kind of am curious now because it was my first time watching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Movies get better with time. So I'm definitely interested to see a Scream fan's perspective on it and what makes this movie click with them, because there is a very interesting element about it. I love the fact that Wes Craven tried to put an end to the slasher genre and ironically ended up reinvigorating it.
Yeah. So
I think it's 90s tone. I don't know, but we'll get into it.
yeah, it's crazy. This is my favorite one in the series. It's weird. The only reason, let me see, I was 10 years old when this came out. And the only reason I wanted to see it was because I noticed the mask in the trailers. And it tripped me out because I had bought that mask at Walmart 2 years before, in 1994, for my Halloween costumes. I was like 8 years old, and I was the fucking Scream guy for Halloween before the movie was even, a thing. And we had went out. Yeah, and I still had that mask for years after that. I don't know what happened to it, but it was back when that mask was still like it was in the movie, where it was rubber and all that. Because now when you see the masks in stores, it's so lame because it's this cheap plastic and they have this pump that squirts blood up in it. I'm like, this is so stupid. The original cheap $5 mask was the best version, and they even had glow-in-the-dark ones. I think mine might have been the glow-in-the-dark one, but and they had. My
cousins had. Well, they had the rubber one, and then they had the bloody one, and the bloody one it seemed. I remember them having trouble with the pump and shit. It was overcomplicated.
Yeah, it was stupid. My brother bought that one eventually when it had come out, But what I loved about this mask is that wasn't the only mask. There was a series of masks like this in this style. Green, purple. They weren't the same shape, but they were in very similar shapes. It was a cool ass line of masks. I loved the shit out of them. I had, two or three different ones. And,
It was the real Silver Shamrock situation.
yeah. But so, me and my brother and my dad, and at this point, I had only really seen mostly the classic horror movies at this age, and I knew about Freddy Krueger, but hadn't seen any of those movies yet. At this point I had only seen Halloween 6 because me and my brother and my dad, when that came out, we had there was this movie theater we used to go to every Sunday, and we'd go and watch a movie, and the place didn't give a fuck. Like, nobody was in there, so we would always, after the one movie we paid for, we'd always sneak into another one and watch it.
Dispense.
Yeah, and so we had done that. We snuck in to see Halloween 6, and I remember thinking that was some cool shit when I was like 9, man. I was like, this is a cool fucking movie.
Was that one of Michael Myers?
Yeah, The Curse of Michael Myers with old Paul Rudd. Ant-Man and this motherfucker. So I wasn't familiar with any of the tropes, any of all that stuff. So we go fucking see Scream, me and my brother and my dad, and we're like really getting into it because it focused on the mystery of, it had a slight whodunit aspect. And I remember me, my brother, and my dad, like, throughout the whole movie being like, oh, it's this guy. No, it's this guy. It's this guy. And so we had a lot of fun watching it.
They do set up a good collection of crazy characters.
Yeah.
That I could imagine when the movie first came out. Like, without the context of all the parodies, because we'll get into that as well, that this movie on its own is a parody in its own right, and then there were so many parodies of this parody.
Yeah, and what's cool is this movie, yeah, it's a parody, but it takes itself pretty serious. The characters go through some serious shit, but I don't know, I think it's...
It hinders on the teen drama a little bit, which wasn't someone who made... The dude who made Dawson's Creek directed this, didn't he?
He didn't direct it, but he wrote it. Kevin Williamson. And that's something I definitely want to get into because I've seen a lot of Kevin Williamson stuff. Like I like Dawson's Creek and all that. This has the dialogue in this fucking movie has Kevin Williamson's imprint all over it. The overly dramatic movie reference dialogue, the whole, we started off with an R-rated relationship and we were getting close to NC-17, but, now we're kind of close to PG-13, and then,
for the time, this level of satire was probably, really fucking cool and really,
it's
next level. But I think with time, I think that's just what I'm saying. It's like the film doesn't seem like it aged that well.
Yeah,
for
it's
first time viewing.
It is. It's pretty dated, but it's dated in a fun way for me. It's like with movies like Hackers and stuff, where, man, it is definitely a product of its time. But since I was there and saw it fresh, and I can still watch it today and be like, man, I fucking love this damn movie.
That's what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Loved it on two different levels because there was the initial watch when it came out and this was never seen before, and now over time you can enjoy it for different more comedic reasons. You know what I mean? So there's always an entertainment element to this movie, and I will give it that. It didn't click with me like maybe I thought it would, but I still walked out thoroughly entertained.
Yeah, like, and then you got to think of other Kevin Williamson dialogue, like right before Sydney and Billy go to fuck, and he's talking about, life is just one big movie, man. But you just don't get to
Yeah.
pick your genre. And she's like, why can't we just do a porno? I'm like, wow, man. Some of
Yes,
that
exactly.
shit's
I was
real
watching.
hokey, but it works for me, and I really like it. And then another thing I love about this movie is the sort of middle of nowhere vibe this town has.
I do like that. The
Yeah,
atmosphere is pretty good.
it's very much sort of on the outskirts of a city. Everybody's got big houses, and it's always out in the middle of nowhere. Um, but dude, the opening to this movie. Though what's crazy is you got to think in '96 slashers were dead. They were straight up dead. Um, and so this movie comes out with a bit of a sleek look to it, which everybody says, this started off that big teen slasher craze, and it definitely did. But I don't think that craze got its look and feel until right when Scream 2 and I Know What You Did Last Summer came out, because those are the two those are the two that every teen slasher movie of the time looked like. Whereas this one didn't really have that look down.
It was kind of its footing of that kind of. It was still like in the experimental phase.
Yeah, yeah, like, because if you look at Scream 2, you're like, all right, a lot of Dawson's Creek actors are in here, and the colors, it's very colorful. Whereas this one, it doesn't really, the camera doesn't focus on a lot of colors. But fucking that opening is so great because it sets up the basic premise with the game, and yeah, you know guess these horror fucking trivia questions and all that, which sadly this is the only part in the series that really gets into that, with the killer calling and asking you questions and stuff. The fourth one does that in a way. um, But yeah, this is like one of the few times, like, everybody remembers. Oh yeah, what's your favorite scary movie? I'm like, well, that's one of the most memorable things about the film, but it's not really in there at all that much.
Yes,
Um,
people really play up the phone element of the movie because of this scene. How many times does Ghostface really call people over the phone in this movie, though?
exactly. I
It's
mean,
like,
two, three maybe. Um, so this movie, it starts off. You got Drew Barrymore. And she's making the popcorn, and dude keeps calling her up, and that's, she fucking, I love this though, because um the opening takes itself pretty serious, where all right, her fucking boyfriend gets killed, and she's just about to make it out, man. Like, she's just about to make it. Like, she's right there on the side of the fucking porch when her parents are walking in the house. And then the parents are like, oh my God, what's going on, and looking around in the house. And they pick up the phone to call the police, and they hear her basically getting killed on the phone. So it's like, oh shit, our daughter is being fucking killed not too far from us, because it's a cordless phone. And so they walk outside. They're freaking out. They walk outside and then see her dead ass body hanging in the tree. And what I like about this is the fact that in a lot of slasher movies, you don't have family member characters see or deal with the killer or the killing, I mean. So you get this added bit of emotion right here because damn, she was so close to being okay, and then the parents you see their reaction to the shit, which is something you don't normally see in slashers. Normally, a character's killed and that's it.
Because usually they're like away at camp or something. They're in the situation where the parents aren't normally around.
Yeah.
The only other time I've seen, like, before Scream at least, like, the parents actually mourning the death is another Wes Craven movie, like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
They did a bit of that, but not nearly to the same extent that Scream did.
Yeah.
And I definitely appreciate that. Like, I definitely see where you're coming from, and that is a nice element that they added. But I feel like sometimes the style could get in the way of it, because right after that, they do that incredibly over-the-top kind of choppy zoom into her body.
Yeah.
And that's meant, that in itself, like, maybe they're aware of how cheesy it is, because this movie does have kind of self-aware vibe to it.
Yeah. Which is another reason it's so fun, is it takes itself serious, but not way too serious. Like, I know a lot of people say this movie is not as smart as it thinks it is. And I'm like, the movie's smart, but I think it's aware that it's not as smart as it thinks it is. I think the movie understands that. I think the sequels is where it kind of gets a little muddied, but the first one's having fun with it because I also love the fact that, this is a movie where all the teenagers have seen horror movies, so they don't know they don't know this is going to be a slasher, they think, oh man, our friend was killed, and so obviously they're making jokes, because, some people make jokes about that shit, and then be like, oh, well, what if it's like this movie, this movie, this movie, and so it's like, this is a world where all these characters, they know and love these movies, and then they start imprinting that on yeah, and, but yeah, it's right after that intense opening, it cuts to Nev Campbell and Billy coming in the room, and you get some of the most hokey ass dialogue, man, right fucking there. And fine little scene, but then another aspect I like is you go into they go to school, and news people are there, like from all different stations. Police are everywhere. It gives you this,
there really is a chaotic sense of like what these characters are going through.
Yeah.
There really is a tragic element to it. I'll acknowledge that.
Yeah, there
is a bonus that there are like legitimate stakes. Like a victim isn't just like a meat sack that's lined up. Like there's consequence to when a murder happens. It makes a splash in the community.
Yeah, and it really gives you this small town vibe where it's like this community doesn't see this kind of thing all that often. And they talk about, a year ago, Sydney's mom was raped and murdered, and that was the craziest thing the town's seen, and boom, now it's another one, like, when will this end? And, fucking...
The principle, when Henry Winkler gets killed, like, that was the scene that stood out to me, because I would say this movie, the acting ranges from crazy to over the top most of the time, from at least like characters like Jamie Kennedy and Matthew Lillard. But there's that scene where they're all watching the horror movies and they get the call that the principal died, and for a split second, like there is that element of humanity. Like they do take like that fucking depressed pause, you know what I mean? Like they acknowledge the loss of life. Immediately it's followed with the joke that all the drunk kids are like, let's go see it.
Yeah.
Anthony's face, like, this is some serious shit.
Yeah, like you just see the emotional toil on some of the characters, which I'll get to some of it in a minute that doesn't really work. But the this movie introduced me to a lot of stuff. It introduced me to the slasher genre. It introduced me to all the horror movies that they're talking about, because I went and I watched all those horror movies after I saw this, and then that's another reason this movie is like so close to me, because it like introduced me to a lot of shit, and then like it introduced me to Nick Cave, one of my favorite musical artists of all time, and like for some reason the Red Right Hand just fits that town so fucking good. They utilized that song greatly in this movie. Huh?
That the song in the soundtrack with like the kind of eerie choir at the beginning.
No, it's the it's that and designed and directed with his red right hand. I know he did another version, I think for Scream 3, that had more orchestra stuff going on.
Because the soundtrack choices were pretty hitter. Like, there are some really awesome soundtrack choices that I like. But the track I was talking about, it happens fairly early in the movie. It's the shots of, like, when the kids are going to school and the television van is, like, surrounding the place. There's, like, this weird choir that's playing. It's kind of remixed. I would dare say that the soundtrack is somewhat industrial. I don't know. Sometimes it works, but in that particular moment, it kind of, like, made my head turn for a second.
Yeah, the song I'm talking about starts, the first time you hear it, I believe, is when everyone's packing up for the curfew, and you're seeing everyone, like, closing down shop and all that. What was I saying? Yeah, it introduced me to a lot of shit that, it kind of fueled my love for the genre, and fucking, the characters, man, alright? I love the over-the-top characters, like fucking Stu and Randy, favorite characters in the whole series. Just because they are so, like, I love Randy because he is so into the fucking movies.
Yeah, like, these are his life.
Yeah, and he works at the video store, and like, didn't you get fired from there? And he's just like, twice. And you're like, you love that because obviously it's a small town. Not a lot of people are working at this video store. For some reason, they've hired him 3 times. And then the scene, I love the scene where Stu and Billy and Randy are in the video store, and they're talking about who it could be, and Randy is just flipping his shit. And
formula.
Yeah.
Everyone suspect.
Yeah. There's a moment right before he flips out like that, and he's saying his crazy shit. There is an extra who is behind Randy, and she's like staring at him all weird while he's saying his shit, and she just kind of like shakes her head and walks away. So it like gives this added piece of like, yeah, people are hearing him before he flips his shit.
I would have to say, if I had to pick a favorite character in this movie, I really like Dewey.
Dude, yeah,
David
Dewey's
Arquette.
real fun too, man. David Arquette.
Characters in this movie, I think, and he's an odd dude. I could definitely see how, like, maybe somebody could possibly see him being the killer, but if I'm not gonna lie, I knew who the killer was from the first frame. And I don't know if maybe it's just the way the film is shot, or I don't know, but it's Stu, right? The names I'm still unfamiliar
Yeah,
with.
Stu and Billy. Stu and Billy are the killers in this one.
Billy comes off less of like a villain and more of somebody who is like roped into it, you know? Like, he's clearly crazy, but like he comes off more like the Renfield to Stu's Dracula.
Really, because Stu feels more like the Renfield. You know, you're talking about her boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Because
Which one's Matthew?
Matthew Lillard is Stu.
Okay, so reverse that.
Yeah.
What I just said, reverse.
Yeah, because, Billy is the one that really feels like... Because, I mean, it really was his plan all along, because you find out that, Neve Campbell's mom was a slut, and that she was fucking his dad, and that's what made his mom leave, so he went and decided to kill the bitch. And, it was definitely Billy that orchestrated the whole thing, and Stu's just along for the ride. I love that they say shit like, we don't need a motive. We don't need a reason to, motives are incidental. I like that shit because they're playing with the tropes, man. But one thing too is Neve Campbell, when she first gets the call and he's like, "Do you like scary movies?" She's like, "No, why?" When it's all about some big-breasted girl that runs up the stairs when she should be running out the door, and it's like,
yeah. And then the first thing she does when confronted in the face of danger,
yeah.
is go up the stairs.
But granted, she at least goes for the front door and she can't get it open, and then she runs up the stairs. But yeah, bitch, you're running up the stairs. But I mean, she gets lucky because, her door lock, and then the way her closet opens to keep that door from opening all the way. And another thing I like too is, wondering which character is in the suit at any given time. Obviously it's Stu in the suit there, so Billy can bust up and be the hero, and then there's I swear that's gotta be Billy when they're killing Dewey's sister, which is one thing that I wanted to bring up, is that you see the emotional turmoil over the characters after losing friends and loved ones. You don't really get that with Dewey and his sister. Like, her death is one of the few that kind of just goes is kind of like your cheap slasher death, because like, number one, there's no way she's getting stuck in that doggy door. You can see multiple ways that she could slip out of that fucking thing.
Absolutely, man.
I mean, really, and fuck.
She should have done with no arms first and then slide her way out.
Right.
She got caught in there.
Yeah, so that's pretty fucking stupid. And then, like, that happens, and then that's it. Like, it's not called back to until later on when Neve falls out the window, or falls off the roof, and then sees her, and she's like, "Oh no!" And, she's like, "Oh my god, that's my friend there." But I do like the fact that after Tatum gets killed, lots of characters are, where's Tatum at? Blah, blah, blah. Where's she at? Where's this? So I do like that they're still, we're aware that she was there, and they notice her absence. But as far as, you'd think Dewey would be pretty fucking, but then again, he probably doesn't even know she's dead until after he gets put on the ambulance at the end. He probably doesn't find out till the aftermath. But even in the sequel, I don't really remember much of a acknowledgement. But I'll have to watch them again because I haven't seen part 2 in a long time.
I think it's kind of fitting, though, that she got such a stupid death, because obviously Rose McGowan's character is sort of it's shooting to parody the basic blonde bimbo
Yeah.
of this.
Yeah.
You know? And Rose McGowan, you know, she usually doesn't do it for me as an actress. Sometimes she comes off kind of weird and robotic, but I definitely see, like, why she got the role in this movie. I think she embodies the character pretty well, because that's kind of the point of her entire character, am I wrong?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, she's there to be the hot blonde chick that gets killed.
She's kind of lined up to be a kill to begin with. So I remember at first when the movie started, I was kind of like, oh my god, Rose McGowan again. Okay, I guess I'll slog. But then as the movie went on, I'm like, oh, she grew on me in this movie.
Yeah, and that's another thing, is like, all the characters are interesting and fun and likable. Which is pretty fucking...
I think my favorite, like, subplot between characters, like I said, Dewey is by far my favorite character. The subplot with him and Courtney Cox is really, I guess, it is charming because it's a little bit of light in this overall dark movie.
Yeah.
And I guess there's also the added pretext that they actually, like, were a thing.
Yeah. I think after this movie, they became a couple in real life. But I like how when they first meet, that you almost get this vibe that she's using him. And she still kinda uses him a little bit, but at the same time you see like, okay, maybe she really does like the motherfucker. So yeah, like, and then like Dewey says some of the goofiest shit, man. When fucking she's like, yeah, I normally have a demographic between like 11 and 24-year-olds, and he was like, well, I may be 25, but I was 24 for a whole year. Like, what the fuck, man? But yeah, dude, one of my favorite scenes involving Dewey is when they're at the police station and his sister Tatum is just ripping his shit in front of all his work buddies, and he's like, and I love the acting here because like his voice is breaking, you could tell he's embarrassed, and he's like, Mom, what did Mom say? That when I wear this badge, you treat me like an officer of the law. Oh shit. So that's really fun. And another thing about this movie I like is the fact that you do see the parents. You see Billy's parents. You see Nev's dad. You see Dewey and Tatum's mom. You know.
Yeah. Really get a feel for who everybody is in the town, and everybody's kind of got their own thing going for them. I like how every character's kind of got a little bit of dirt on them.
Yeah.
Like, there's no clear cut. Like, I mean, there are good guys and bad guys, but it still leaves you, since this is a whodunit after all, it does sort of leave you on your toes. Like, everybody's got a dark streak to them.
Like, anyone can be the killer. And the obvious ones from the beginning are the obvious ones, but they do a nice fake out because, you know, it is almost believable for a minute that Billy is dead. When old dude comes in there and stabs him, but if you really pay attention, there are no cuts in the shirt.
And he does kind of play up the acting when he's stabbed, so that kind of gets in the way of...
Yeah, he turns around, he's like, Sydney, and he just falls over, like, oh, really now?
The obvious killers are the obvious killers, and I agree with you on that, but they also do this thing that a lot of, like, 90s, early 2000s sort of horrors do, and my biggest example is the first Saw movie, where... And I love Saw, but whenever they want you to suspect that somebody is the killer, they'll start unrealistically acting like the killer.
Yeah, man.
So, in any given scene, like, if they want you to believe, like, let's say, now all of a sudden Billy's gonna act weird, and now all of a sudden, you know, this character's gonna start acting suspicious.
Like, even down to the sheriff, like, when, they really focus on his boots when he puts that cigarette out. because they are very similar boots to the boots you see in the bathroom when the bathroom attack happens. But what's crazy to me is when that scene where she's in the bathroom and Ghostface comes out of the toilet. I've always never really believed that to be either Billy or Stu, because already there's a dude, there's kids running around the school with the suit, just playing pranks, and I'm almost believe that's somebody playing a prank, because number one, how long would he had to stand on that fucking toilet before Sydney even happened to go to the bathroom? How did he know she was gonna go to the bathroom? Like, if that's the killer, like, wow, dude, you have a lot of fucking patience.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is, like, I kind of like the idea of, like, the teens being the killer, like, almost the over-obsessed fans, but at the same time, they're also just crazy, but this being a movie, you do have to ask, like, how much free time did they actually have to plan all this out?
Seriously.
It's quite eerie, though, and I don't mean to bring it to this realistic level, but, like, in the upcoming years after Scream, the movie would find itself kind of being a little bit more relevant with the questions of, like, violence in the media and stuff like that. That became a really big talking point. It already was a talking point, but I feel like after Scream, like, it definitely became a hotter topic, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, like, fucking, should children be watching these movies? Should children be playing these games? Should children be listening to this music?
You start to see a lot of situations pop up on the news, so
yeah,
there definitely is, like, a social, like, aspect of this movie that you could definitely, like, dive into.
Yeah. Which,
and society, if you will.
Yeah, and I like that. You know, this is characters who've just seen way too many movies. Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
I like how, like, that is the killer's motivation, but they never, like I said, this is trying to somewhat kill the slasher genre a little bit, but they don't make horror movies the straight-up cause for the violence, which I like.
Yeah.
They even say at the end of the movie, it's like, horror films don't create killers, it just makes the killers more creative.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite lines.
Yeah. I really latched on, weirdly enough, I latched onto that because it would have been really easy for them to make the films themselves the scapegoat. And I like how Jamie Kennedy turned out not to be the killer, because any other movie probably would have made the over-obsessed horror fan, the obvious obsessed horror fan, the killer. You get a sense that Stu and Billy are also, you know, horror fans themselves, but not at the same level of Jamie Kennedy.
Yeah. Because Jamie Kennedy, he just fucking loves the movies. And, the other guys, Stu and Billy, they really like the movies too, but they take it a little further. They like them for all the wrong reasons. And I don't know, man. Matthew Lillard too, man, is another one of my favorites, because this was at a time where if this dude was in a movie, he was chewing the fuck out of the scenery. Because he had just got done with Hackers, and dude, he is so great in Hackers. But Hackers is a movie where everybody is chewing the scenery. So, I don't know, man. Fucking, I just like the shit that he says, especially like toward the end when they're getting all crazy, you know, and the fucking old buddy stabs him too many times. He's like, man, I think I'm dying here, man. And fucking... Huh?
He goes, my parents are gonna be so mad.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, the big thought on his mind.
Yeah, my mom and dad are gonna be so mad at me. But one of my big things, another thing that's like way too hokey, especially at the end, is, I get it. She's calling him up, you know, playing with the voice changer. But why did she need to put the costume on?
Right?
Yeah, like, there was no reason to put the costume on, especially after she just takes it off right afterward. Like, really. No
Just to
reason.
give of his own medicine.
Right, like, it's just, so, you're in this dire situation. They get
And she has the
distracted.
fully chain, like Superman in a phone booth.
Right, they get distracted, and you finally have your chance to get out of there, and you decide, you know what, I'm gonna look for their costume. Number one, how did she find it so fast? I'm gonna put on their costume, and I'm gonna hide in the closet and stab him in the shoulder with a broom or an umbrella, and call him a couple times from the cell phone. Fucking, oh my god, that's pretty damn hokey.
I like how Matthew Lillard's character does definitely come off like he was roped in, but he still has his own crazy streak to him where he was just like bleeding and crying that he was going to get in trouble, and you kind of get a sense that like there is some remorse for what he's done. And then immediately after, he's just tackling fucking Sydney and choking her.
Yeah. And
then he throws in, I've always liked you, Sid. Like, she just had to know that before she died.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing, is that's two characters in this movie who like her. Because Randy's always whining about, do you think she'll go out with me? Oh man, there goes my chance with Sid. Like, really? What? And then him be like, I've always had a thing for you, Sid. Like, come on.
Yeah, that always stuck out to me.
Yeah, that to me doesn't need to be there. That's kind of, like, do we need the fucking awesome movie fan to be, like, to have the hots for her? I don't know. But, I mean, like, and then he has probably one of the coolest deaths. Because he's fucking just laying there and she just drops the TV on his fucking head. That
was a great.
Yeah, and he's like just like, even his death is over the top. Like,
that was landed with me, but Matthew Lillard is also just one of those actors that, for me personally, like, usually when actors chew the scenery, like, it doesn't come off right, but like, that's his playground when he's able just to go absolutely insane.
Yeah. But even like his death, like his I'm being electrocuted noises are just way over the top. Fucking real funny. And then, alright, Billy's death, I like this with he's laying there, she kicks his leg, and they're standing there, and fucking she's like, well, I didn't forget the safety this time. And fucking Jamie Kennedy, man, I love the shit. He's like, y'all watch out. This is where the supposedly dead killer comes back for one final scare, and then dude just and they shoot him in the fucking head, and then like, not in my movie. I'm like, yeah, motherfucker. This one she has a great fucking one-liner at the end of this one, and in part 4 she has a great fucking one-liner. It's like I said, to me the best ones to me is 1 and 4. Because 4 does...
I remember that 3... I remember hearing that 3 is pretty bad. 2 I haven't heard a lot about. It's just kind of there. Like, the 2 that I've really heard of have been the original, and I remember when 4 came out, it was a pretty big deal.
Yeah, like, 2 is good. I like 2 okay. Not as much as 1, but I can live without 3, because it does a lot of stupid shit. But 4, man, 4 does for the current horror movie landscape of the late 2000s, like this one did for the 80s and 90s horror landscape. Like, I think 4 feels more like a better and definitive sequel. I could watch 1 and 4 and forget that 2 and 3 exist and be like, boom, this is how these movies are meant to be watched.
Yeah, it's kind of like what sequels are doing now with, like, the bigger box office films, where if there's a popular... Like, the new... I don't know, like, these franchise movies are coming out. Like the new Terminator, for example, is just ignoring all these like sequels now, and it's a sequel to 2.
Because, like, this part 4, like, it doesn't necessarily ignore the sequels, but it doesn't really call back to them all that much. Which is a thing I like, because, man, we can all forget about 3. Yeah, like, 4 is fucking awesome. 4 really lampoons on the remake and reboot culture of the time that we're still going through today, and Jay and Silent Bob reboots giving us, you know. But yeah, 1 and 4 are the best ones to me.
I wanted to bring that up. We talked about the Texas Chainsaw remake before as well. It's like, I thought we were past the dark age of horror, as I like to call it, which was the remake age. I thought we were done with all that, but have you seen that there's this new Grudge movie coming out, and it doesn't indicate to be a sequel in any case, at least the posters I've seen. It's called The Grudge. So are they just remaking The Grudge now? Is this where we've gone?
Wow, I have no idea. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, like Sam Raimi is still producing it. A poster was recently released.
Wow.
I don't know if it's supposed to be just a whole different movie or if it's supposed to be a remake, but it's just called The Grudge. So in my mind, that sounds like remake to me. And it's just really weird to me that like a 2000s horror movie is getting a remake.
Yeah, like even just a couple years ago when they put out that third Ring movie, Rings, like...
Oh my god, I forgot that even existed, honestly.
Yeah, people tripped over The Ring and The Grudge when they first came out, but, you know, they had their time. Another thing I like about this, too, is if you ever do get to the sequels, they talk about who would play you in the movie, Sid, and, you know, and Dewey's like, oh, I could see you as a young Meg Ryan, and she's like, well, my luck, I'd get Tori Spelling, and they call back to that in Scream 2 in a really fun way. But damn it, man, I'm trying to think of some more shit to damn say.
Right?
Because it's a very simple fucking movie.
Yeah, that's why I want to do these movies as more of like a basic chat instead of a plot-by-plot synopsis, but at the same time, though, sometimes, like, it's good. I'm starting to realize it's sometimes good to, like, find a spot in the plot to start a discussion with.
Yeah, you're like, I can go deeper if I'm going plot and scene by scene.
That's true.
But, because the way fucking everything is handled, like, they even try to make you think that the Fonz is the killer, you know? He's, like, really getting crazy with them scissors, man. Like, dude, like...
I want to bring up Henry Winkler's scene as well, because there's the part with the scissors, and then there's the part right before his death where he's putting on the mask in the mirror.
Yeah, he puts on the mask. But then you get this awesome... I love all the other references, too, because he hears the noise, he walks out there, and something like, cut it out, you little shits, and then you see this janitor, and he's dressed up in a Freddy Krueger-style outfit with the hat, and he's like, what'd you say to me? Or what'd you call me? And he's like, nothing, Fred, and just walks back in, and then there's the one point where Tatum is like, oh, it's just like one of those Wes Carpenter flicks.
Yeah, Wes Carpenter. And I wanted to bring up how Wes Craven might have been the perfect director to get for this project, because I assume the script was written and then Wes Craven was kind of like hired onto it, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because he even gets a nice dig at the Freddy series, because like, oh, Nightmare on Elm Street, and she straight up says, yeah, the first one was good, but all the others sucked.
And you can kind of tell that Wes Craven was kind of going in this meta direction with stuff like New Nightmare. But the plot kind of takes a lot of elements from the original Nightmare on Elm Street specifically. Like, you have the scene where, so it is Stu who's like the lead killer, right? Or, yeah.
Billy's the lead killer. Stu's the crazy, goofy one.
Stu gets brought into like the police for the first time, and Sydney's sitting there. You know what I mean? And he's yelling for her.
No, that's Billy. Billy is in the police, and
of when Rod got arrested in Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah.
Because this is before we confirmed that Stu is the killer. So as far as like the audience is concerned, he's just kind of like the bad boy character.
You're still getting his name wrong. It's Billy, man.
Am I still getting it wrong?
Yeah, Billy is her boyfriend, the one that got arrested and all that.
New to me. What can I say?
It's totally cool. Let me hold on for 2 seconds. Okay, we're back. Yeah, so we had a pause. Our cat Kinzu just tried to kill a chipmunk, had that motherfucker in his mouth, and then the chipmunk got away. So I'm like, shit, I need a cigarette. But
yeah, it was Billy who got arrested, and that scene reminded me a lot of when Rod got arrested in Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah. Which is cool because, you know, also too, like, when I was a kid, cell phones, you know, it's weird that this movie's like, yeah, everyone's got a cell phone. And I'm like, really? When I was a kid, my buddies didn't get their first beepers until like 1999, you know? But I guess, you know, I just live in a poorer part of the U.S., but, you know, I didn't start noticing everybody with a cell phone till at least early 2000s. And the thing about the voice changer, alright, I think that it sounds cool on the phone, but during the big reveal and they're each using the voice changer, it sounds nothing like it does on the phone. You can barely notice it when they're like, "Hi, Sid, blah, blah, blah. This is me talking to the voice changer thing."
It's like Matthew Lillard's voice coming through a modifier.
Yeah, like, it sounds nothing like it does on the phone. And even so, like, in the sequels, it's still the same voice. And the third one does some real hokey shit with the voice changer that you still can't do today. But, I don't know, man. This one is such a cool fucking movie, man. The vibe, the look, the real woodsy nature, the being out in the, I don't want to say country, but, you know, right next to the country. Fucking everybody knows everybody. And yeah, I remember too when my mom had first saw it. We had rented it, and because me, Zach, and my dad, we were just playing it up to her, man, and she really enjoyed it. Like, my mom really got into the teen slashers for a minute when they were coming out, and fucking, I remember she was like, after the movie, she was like, "Oh man, I hate that Dewey died," and I'm like, "He didn't die." Like, "Yeah, he got stabbed in the back." I'm like, "You didn't see him being loaded in the ambulance?" And they're all like, "You're gonna be all right, man." She was like, "Oh, I didn't see that part." I was like, "Oh my god."
Is it just me though, or does Billy, like, here's another Nightmare on Elm Street comparison. Billy reminds me of a young Johnny Depp in his look.
Yeah, he does. He's got that hair thing going on. Skeet Ulrich is a badass, though, you know, and it's so weird because I watched that Riverdale show, and he plays Jughead's dad on there, and he looks still the fucking same, just older, and it's so weird seeing him in this movie, young as a motherfucker now.
Some people just know how to retain the look, and yeah, I was watching the movie with my girlfriend, and she was telling me all about him in Riverdale and stuff like that. So the cast of this movie is pretty notable. Like, it does have, once again, it's got names.
Yeah, because Nev Campbell, I think Party of Five had just become a thing, or was about to be a thing. It's weird though, like, at the time, everybody was pretty notable. But no one in this movie went on to have like an incredible career. They all did for a couple years afterward, but like David Arquette, after this he's obviously been in all the Screams, but fucking he would do shit like See Spot Run, and the wrestling movie. The fuck was that movie called? I can't even remember what the hell that fucking movie was called, but like that, and I can't think of much. God damn it! Who the fuck is the Friends chick that married him?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah, the Gail Weathers, the news chick.
I'm not David Arquette lore.
Yeah. Um, I don't know what, I can't really think of what the fuck she had. Courtney Cox. I really can't think of much she was doing after this, because she was still on Friends for years after this, and
I would argue Courtney Cox is probably the one whose career lasted the longest out
yeah.
of these guys.
Yeah, because Jamie Kennedy, man, I love him in this movie, but he was in a lot of dog shit after this. And Matthew Lillard, though. Matthew Lillard, huh?
It's tough for me.
I think Matthew Lillard probably had some of the best stuff happen, because, for a while there, he was like, yeah, he's probably not going to go anywhere. And then he played Shaggy in those two awful Scooby-Doo movies. And
But he was Shaggy, you know what I mean? Like, he was the best part.
Yeah, and he was definitely fantastic as Shaggy. But what blew my mind is the fact that he took over the voicing role of Shaggy in all the Scooby-Doo. And it's crazy, because there's a Scooby-Doo cartoon I really like called Mystery Inc., where it's more serialized and more about the town as opposed to just going somewhere and your car breaking down. Like, Mystery Inc. is a really good Scooby-Doo cartoon. And that was when I first realized, I was like, whoa, this is Matthew Lillard? Because when you see him in the movie, you're like, oh, that's a damn good Shaggy impression. But when you hear the voice in a cartoon, it is spot on. Like, wow, y'all did this fucker some justice by actually being like, you want to play Shaggy?
And not to mention, he's done a lot of roles that I enjoy. He's done that. SLC Punk is probably my favorite from him.
Yeah, SLC Punk is awesome.
I remember catching that one episode of Law and Order SVU that he did where he played a really sick motherfucker. I mean, it was still kind of funny because it's clearly Matthew Lillard, but like it was intriguing to see him take a more serious turn. So he's been doing a lot of television recently. He did, obviously, he did Without a Paddle with Seth Green.
And I liked Without a Paddle.
Me too. I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, a fun movie about the whole.
Day.
Yeah. And then he was also in that Twin Peaks revival.
Really?
Yeah, but man, he is almost unrecognizable.
I love his story. I love his story about playing Shaggy for the first time to get the rest. Like nowadays, he's got the Shaggy voice down. Like he could switch it on and off. But when he first got the part, and he was still working on his Shaggy voice. His key to getting his voice that raspy was before arriving on set, he would just scream in his car for a while. And he recalls like so many people like knocking on his door like, "Are you okay?" Like, is it happening?
Wow. But and then Rose,
David, like you said, didn't really go anywhere. Rose McGowan,
she was hot for a minute. Just 90s. She was that. Then she had that relationship with Marilyn Manson for a minute.
Wasn't she also with Robert Rodriguez for a little bit?
Yeah, she was in the Grindhouse.
I knew her from initially, but I think wasn't she also like dating him for a hot minute?
Oh, I have no idea. But I remember Jawbreaker and fucking. But yeah, she was in Death Proof and Planet Terror. Wow.
She was the main character in Planet Terror, and then Tarantino just said fuck it and killed her off.
Which one was she in Death Proof? I haven't seen that in ages.
In Death Proof, she was the blonde one she was the first kill Kurt Russell makes before making the big, when he crashes into the other car?
Yeah.
And that girl's face with the tire.
Yeah. Damn.
She was the first kill before that.
Damn. And then, fucking...
Henry Winkler was already kind of, done with his career at this point, so you can't even say that.
Yeah, but what's crazy is he wound up getting pretty popular again after this. Because he started being in, all the Adam Sandler movies and shit and all that.
So, if anyone this movie worked out for, it was Henry Winkler.
Seriously. And then there's another line that is weird to me. When she's first on the phone with Ghostface, and he mentions her mom, she says, "Fuck you, you cretin." And I'm like, who the fuck says that?
Right?
Who the fuck says cretin? I mean, what? Whatever. But, Kevin Williamson is definitely on the forefront of that whole teen slasher thing, because didn't he even write and direct fucking I Know What You Did Last Summer?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was involved.
Okay, so he wasn't. He wrote it. He didn't direct it. But yeah,
I like the he puts forward. It's his dialogue is where my problem lies. At least I just think the dialogue is kind of
just a little hokey.
It's hit or miss, because for the over the top parts, it somewhat works. But for the actual dramatic parts, it kind of it faults a bit.
Yeah, it gets pretty hokey, but yeah, he wrote fucking The Faculty, Teaching Mrs. Tingle, and then Cursed, which was supposed to be Scream for werewolf movies, but was delayed, and apparently is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, know of it. Yeah, that didn't look too good.
Yeah, I've never seen it. But yeah, that dude was but he's also done shit that, I watched Dawson's Creek, but I'm not fucking with Vampire Diaries. I never watched The Following or Stalker, but it's
pretty solid, but I never really got into it.
The what?
The Following.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, is that the one with, is that the Kevin Bacon show?
Oh, yeah, it is, isn't it?
So yeah, I've heard that, that had a pretty decent, audience when it was out. It didn't last long, though, at all.
And I do like, too, at the end of the movie, man, when Halloween is playing, certain bits of the Halloween musical cues are from the movie they're watching is integrated in what's happening to them.
Yeah, like when Ghostface pops up from around the corner and you get the classic Halloween sting.
Yeah,
I like that one as well.
Yeah, that was a cool little thing to do, and it made sense. It was the movie's playing while all this is happening, so it wasn't just trying to steal the music from another movie, which, if we ever get to doing Scream 2 kind of does that in a real jarring way, because Scream 2, I call it the Dewey theme, because whenever Dewey is doing shit, it's playing the music that was all over Broken Arrow with Christian Slater and John Travolta. And I'm like, why? Why did y'all do this?
They're there must be like a connection like with some of the filmmakers or something. But what I like about the integration of the horror music in that sequence is it shows that although this is a parody and that it is deconstructing the slasher movie genre and pointing out its faults, there's still a love for the genre interspliced into it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that part is clearly a love letter.
Yeah, it really pays respects while lampooning it at the same time. It's because it's not saying this is shit. Like, certain characters are saying this is shit, but that's the kind of character that is. Like, you really believe that these are horror movie fans, because every horror movie fan has a favorite. Every horror movie fan hates certain movies. So it makes sense that, like, one will be like, oh, the first Nightmare was good, but all the others suck, you know, and so, I mean, I like that, and I really do. Damn, watch out, Kenzie.
There's a nice suspenseful moment during the sequence that before they establish with Courtney Cox's character hiding outside the house that they're observing the teens.
Yeah.
And there's that nice plot element where there's the 30-second delay.
Mm-hmm.
I dug that aspect because there's that moment where the camera operator looks up, and, you know, he's Jamie Kennedy's about to get killed, and he looks up and the door's already opened.
Yeah, and I like it too because they're sitting there watching it on the TV. He's like, behind you, kid! Behind you, kid! Behind you, man! I love that shit because it's like, dude, he can't fucking hear you.
You know, art mirrors reality, and then reality mirrors art.
Yeah. Yeah, I dug that. I really did. I liked that. And then you gotta feel bad for Kenny, man, because he's sitting there. He takes all that shit from Gail Weathers. She's such a mean ass bitch to him, and fucking the man just wants to eat his Cheetos. He just wants to get paid and eat his Cheetos, and boom, a throat cut like a motherfucker.
No, that was easily, like, in terms of, like, the deaths in this movie, that was the one where I'm like, oh, that guy, like, you know, he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah. Like, damn, Kenny. Oh my god, they killed Kenny.
Yeah.
And then they put him on the roof, like, and she's driving, and he gets on the windshield, and she says something like, get your ass off my fucking windshield, man. But yeah, the characters go through some shit, especially the ones that survive. I like the fact that everyone that survives are physically altered in a way. And the sequel kind of calls back to that too. Especially it shows a little bit of her, I would say PTSD. But the sequel really shows that this shit changed these characters a little bit.
And I am certainly curious in checking out the sequels because although this particular, like, type of horror parody isn't really, like, particularly for me, I still, like, there was enough in this movie for me to chew on where I'm kind of intrigued to see, like, at least where the characters go.
Yeah.
And the movie I want to bring up that I initially compared this to before I realized there was also the Texas Chainsaw 2 tonal connection is the only other movie I ever thought of that was like a blatant, like, it was a horror movie but also a parody of a horror movie was Cabin in the Woods. I was making a lot of comparisons.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods was great.
I love Cabin.
Yeah, my favorite parts are definitely the guys controlling the show and all that. Like, they have some of the best lines. Like, how hard is it to kill a room full of 8-year-olds? I mean, I love that movie, man.
So at the end of the day, like, whatever, like, personal, like, gripes I could have with this movie kind of get overshadowed, for me at least, because, you know, without this movie, we wouldn't get a great movie like Cabin in the Woods. This was, like, again, it was meant to kill off the genre, but instead it only introduced a whole nother level of creativity in the genre through a meta-narrative.
Yeah, and sadly that only lasted a couple years, because by 1999, within 3 years, man, of this movie's release, this style of movie was really getting bad. I mean,
Critics didn't help either, because Scary Movie by the early 2000s.
yeah, because like Scream was the only one that had that sort of self-awareness. The other ones just tried to be slashers that looked like Scream.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they kind of missed the point.
Yeah.
They took the skill and not the substance.
Because I really like I Know What You Did Last Summer, but oh man, I Still Know is awful.
Always Home.
Urban Legend is not that fucking great. And to me, like, the final nail in the coffin for me was when I saw Valentine in early 2000. I was like, this is just, what are we doing? And then right after that, yeah, Scream 3 came out, and I'm like, what are you fucking people doing now? This is fucking garbage.
Where it could have went was we could have gotten more meta horror movies, which I feel like, again, a couple came around, like even stuff like Seed of Chucky.
Yeah,
be a little
Seed of Chucky was awesome. Or not Seed, but Bride. Bride of Chucky. Fucking loved Bride of Chucky. That understood it.
Better than Seed.
Yeah, Bride definitely.
Seed tried to bring the Jennifer Tilly aspect where she plays herself.
Yeah.
Done more meta horror like that.
Seed, I love Seed, but man, it is not as good as Bride.
Yeah, Bride is clearly superior. But,
like, I'm not gonna lie, it's my favorite Child's Play movie, man. Everybody likes those first three. I don't know, Bride fucking does it for me.
For me, it's the first, but I agree, like, Bride at least did something different. I was kind of getting sick of him trying to go after Andy.
Yeah, you know, and I like where the series is going now, too, where, oh shit, like, he's finally in a body, and he's in his daughter's body, and so now he's in his daughter's body and gonna have a relationship with Jennifer Tilly. Wild.
But another point I want to bring up is, like, that's where we could have gone. They did try the meta-narrative for a little bit, but this movie could also be partly responsible for the big boom in horror remakes of the 2000s because, like I said, they were deconstructing the genre, but they introduced a whole new generation to the originals, like Halloween, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. So it would make sense that within the time of Scream's release to the 2000s, like, the buzz for these movies had, like, increased. And there was more of a request to see these kind of movies again. But Hollywood still didn't realize, like, what necessarily that meant. I guess they figured that meant they should up the ante and try to do it better. So I guess that's where the remake plague came in.
Yeah, and that, man, that's why I loved House of a Thousand Corpses so much, is because when it came out, man, that movie had some fucking balls. Because the horror movie landscape was pretty fucking shitty around the time Corpses finally came out, man. There was nothing but, everything looked like Final Destination, everything tried to look like Scream, like, it was bad.
And then Rob Zombie comes along. You know, like I said, his movies for me are hit or miss, but he comes at his fucking movies with a set of, like you said, he has balls. He holds nothing back, and he makes the movie that he wants to make, and in such a sterile time for horror, there's more than enough room for a little bit of vision.
But yeah, fucking, so Scream in many ways sort of helped the genre, and in other ways it kind of hurt the genre. But
which in its own right is kind of interesting from, like, a making of standpoint. the history behind it.
Oh yeah. This is a movie that it came out at Christmas of '96, and it stayed in the movie theaters for almost 6 fucking months.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it was like it was a slow burner at the box office, but it eventually just got really big because word of mouth and word of mouth and word of mouth. People are like really fucking saying, oh, this is actually a cool fucking movie. But yeah, I remember, man, it stayed in the theaters for a long time. And, and it also did another thing where, not too many people were releasing big movies at Christmas time. But after this, guess what? Titanic hits at Christmas, everybody, Christmas became a pretty big time to release certain big movies. And
Jackie Brown for Christmas, they did that.
the what?
Jackie Brown was Christmas when
Yeah.
Tarantino did that. I find that strange, though, that this movie, of all things, was a Christmas release. But
Right.
They probably did that on purpose, honestly.
Because after this, most of them were pretty much summer releases, like...
Summer releases, early fall releases.
Yeah. Because even Scream
I mean,
3, I swear I saw that early 2000. That had to be like January, February.
But overall, I do feel like Scream is, like, worthy of its status, you know what I mean? Like, although aspects of it, it truly is a product of its time, but it really is a trailblazer of a film.
Yeah. In many damn ways. When did this...
So overall, I walked away enjoying it, just not... I kind of had to get over the initial wave of, like, finally viewing it, you know what I mean? It's another one of those movies that's been so hyped that when you finally watch it, you get over the this is it factor, where you're like, oh, this is what the movie is.
Yeah.
Now that I have it, like, on the TV again, as I'm watching it again, as we're going through it, like, you start to, like, pick up on it, you know?
Yeah. Damn, But yeah, Scream 3 was released February 3rd of 2000, or February 4th in 2000 in the United States. Yeah, so that is the dump month. January and February. It's the dump month.
At Red Letter would call it, fuck you, it's January.
Yeah, oh my god. Speaking of January horror films, there's one called The Turning coming out, and it's got that Wolfhard kid from Stranger Things in it.
Pretty weird now.
Yeah, and I'm like, I've seen the trailer. I'm like, oh, you know what? This movie looks fairly interesting. And then I see, boom, January release. I'm like, oh, nope, sorry. You're a cool kid.
I think I got that trailer with Joker, and I thought the exact same thing. Like, you see a movie, but then you see the date, and you're just like, nope, that's the dump.
Yeah, because it looked interesting enough. I'm like, fairly interesting premise. But then boom, January hits. I'm like, oh fuck, really? Oh fuck. I like you, Wolfhard, but not this much.
Finn Wolfhard is like making a movie career for himself, like hard. Like I've now seen several trailers or several movie announcements where he has either been in it or is announced to be in it. Like the recent Addams Family, he was just Pugsley.
Oh, that movie looks like garbage.
I fell asleep.
Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna waste my time.
But there's now the news of the new up-and-coming Ghostbusters movie, which he's gonna be in.
Yeah, and that's definitely gonna try to be a Stranger Things looking thing.
I mean, I didn't really expect them to finally do it. I remember they said they were going to, like, Dan Aykroyd was going to try another one after the female one, but...
It's impressive that they're actually doing it, because I would have figured the studio would be like, you know what? Leave it alone.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And after our Ghostbusters retrospective, like, it's crazy to say, you know, everyone knows that I'm such a big Ghostbusters fan, but I think I'm officially Ghostbustered out. I think like we don't need another one. We tried it, it didn't work. Let's just leave it.
Definitely. But
Scream, on the other hand, do you think they'll ever try to bring this back?
I hope
outside
not.
of television, or
I hope not.
it's don't.
It's like we said, it's a '90s thing, man. They need to leave it alone. Because didn't Craven direct all four?
I don't know. I feel like he definitely played a part in 4.
Yeah, I think
Again,
Scream 4 was his final movie. He directed 3. He directed. Looking at 4 now. Yeah, he directed 4.
what year did 4 come out again?
2011.
That makes sense because a year prior. So I was about to say, like, wasn't My Soul to Take his last one? But no, he did that a year prior, in 2010, I think.
Yeah, he directed all 4 of them. See, that's
So
rad.
that's a nice way to go out.
Yeah, because, like, 4, I really enjoyed the shit out of 4, so for it to be his final movie, I'm down. I'm down with it. But yeah, I don't want them to fuck with this shit, because they clearly showed that they don't give a fuck when they do the Scream series. Like, I haven't even watched it yet. I'm such a major fan of the movies, but the series just does not look good. It has that 2000s MTV look to it. Oh, I don't know, man.
It came off dated when I saw the trailer, but I'm curious now to see, maybe, hopefully, what it brings to the table. Because if I remember correctly, I remember the Skeleton Crew, or at least the fan Facebook page, when they were still doing their show, it got a little bit of praise, I think. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think Dan likes it a little bit, but I mean, this came out at the same time Bates Motel was coming out, and Bates Motel was a perfect fucking horror series based on Psycho, and but it's crazy because we had that kind of gave us a little boom of television versions of horror movies, because you also had the Exorcist series and the Omen series and God, what else?
You got the Evil Dead series, of course.
Yeah, the Evil Dead series.
It's still going to this day now. We have the Creepshow series.
Yeah, the Critters series.
Yup.
Like, that's fucking cool.
And I also feel like, not only just that, but I also feel like American Horror Story definitely played a part in that as well.
Yeah, because around 2011, 2012, horror TV shows were the big thing. Because you had shit like Grimm come out and fucking a lot of vampire shows. So like Horror Story, when it came out, like, definitely. And then everybody tries to do what Horror Story did, where anthology series, but instead of a different episode, a different story, it's a different season, a different story. So a lot of people are trying that out, and so it's a good time in horror television right now, definitely.
It's kind of like what the movies began to lack, television began to fill the void. And it also helps that television became a lot more lenient on its censorship.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And another thing, too, is take biopics, for instance, right? Music biopics are really in right now, but damn, have you watched any of the Wu-Tang series?
I have not yet.
It is so fucking good. And, alright, I liked the NWA movie, but, like, they had to take at least 10 years of shit and condense it down to, 2.5 hours. But with the Wu-Tang series being an actual series, you get to let shit breathe and all that. And, so yeah, I'm really kind of hoping that maybe we'll get like some biopic series. That would be rad.
Yeah, it would fit a lot better. Well, we do kind of, but more with like events in history, not specific people. Because I remember the same people who did American Horror Story did the
Oh yeah, Crime
American
Story.
Horror.
Which
Yeah.
I really liked. I really liked the OJ season. I didn't see the Versace season, but their next one's gonna be the Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton scandal. So I'm like, I'm all right. I'm gonna be watching that.
That was pretty interesting. Yeah, I didn't see the Versace one either, but the People versus OJ was pretty riveting.
Yeah, it was really good. One of my favorite parts, dude. So they had some artistic choices that had me like, what's going on here? But when Cuba Gooding Jr. as OJ throws down his plea, fucking the way they present this was so fucking funny because in real life he said this, he's like, absolutely 100% not guilty. But when they do it in the show, as soon as he says it, like fucking hip hop break beats come in, so it's like 100% absolutely not guilty. And I was like, this is fucking hilarious. And it's like showing everybody in the courtroom being like, oh my word. You know what I mean? Like, this is fucking comic gold right here.
And not to mention, where these shows shine is like now a lot of bigger actors are moving over to television as well.
Yeah.
So we're
Especially
getting like film quality in smaller doses.
Yeah.
This has really become like the age of television.
Definitely. Especially actors who were big several years ago. Because even like Tim Robbins is in the new season of Castle Rock, that Stephen King series. So that's kind of cool. You hadn't seen Tim Robbins in shit in a long time.
Oh yeah. I was actually wondering what he's been up to.
But
it also makes sense when it comes back to another Stephen King work.
Yeah, definitely.
The credit sequence for Scream is going off now. They do the classic, we're going to play clips from the movie in freeze frame. Like it's the end of a sitcom.
Yeah, man. But shit, I've really said all I could say about Scream.
Wow, dude, I didn't even realize that was Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, man, does it even show him? Yeah, it barely shows him in the first movie. But he plays a bigger part in part 2.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, like, it's cool the way the movies sort of keep continuity, until you get to 3. 3 just destroys everything in the first 5 minutes.
So I guess I'll watch as far as 2. Maybe I'll check out 3 just for the
I say I want to review them all. So watch 2, watch 3, watch 4 for real.
So this movie is more than Travis approved. Like I said, it wasn't an amazing movie for me, but I would give it a solid 7.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really solid movie, and it does leave you it leaves you curious to check out what more it has.
Yeah.
But like I said, where my interest in the film really does come from that meta element and how it was one of the first big movies to really do it. I'm sure there were other movies beforehand maybe, but this was the first big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I give it a 7. I give it a 7 also.
All right.
Because it's got. It's funny to go back and look at it today and be like, wow, man, this was the biggest thing in the world for a minute there. And you're looking back, you're like, wow, dude, it hasn't aged well, but it's aged in a way that, I still enjoy it.
Yeah. It still has its rewatch value.
Yeah.
I could definitely see this as a movie I could get some friends together and pop in and have a good time with. kind of like this movie. So
Yeah, I do wish that he'd listed off more rules to surviving horror movies instead of just those 3.
yeah,
Because it's like, damn, you're onto something here with the rules of surviving a horror movie and pointing out the tropes and all that. And thankfully, they throw that kind of stuff down in the 4th one. Like the 4th one, man, like I said, it fits the vibe of the first movie a lot better than the other ones. But that was the Graveyard Smash.
let us know what you think, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully next year we can get some more episodes out for you. I was also thinking of maybe next year, if I have the editing software all figured out, giving some short reviews as well as like sort of companion pieces for the Graveyard Smash.
Right on.
Little video extras just for fun. But fuck, man, I had a blast.
Yeah, man, this shit was cool, like always. But we'll see you guys next when we tackle the View Askew-universe.
Fuck yeah, man.
Which let me talk now about this. The View Askew-universe, we're just gonna stick to the standard Jay and Silent Bob, Clerks, Chasing Amy, the main movies in the Askew-universe. We're not gonna talk about any of Kevin Smith's other movies, but with Jay and Silent Bob reboot, Kevin Smith has straight up and come out, and with this movie, other films of his are now in the Askew-universe.
So, what does this mean? Like, because I knew, what's it called? I always figured stuff like Tusk and Yoga Hosers were, like, somewhat connected.
Yeah, but now it's official. Yoga Hosers is connected because one of the girls' mom character is in Jay and Silent Bob reboot, and then Zack and Miri Make a Porno is now in the Askew-universe, but in a more subtle way. Old dude who's playing one of the lawyers, he's playing his same character from Porno, but they can't come out and say his name because Smith doesn't own Zack and Miri Make a Porno. But technically now that's in the Askew-universe, but it's so loose.
Non-Askew-universe movies, I'm cool with that, because, like, out of, like, Cop Out, Jersey Girl, all that stuff, Zack and Miri was the one I walked out most entertained with.
Yeah, but I still don't plan, like, it's so loosely connected that...
Yeah, we don't talk about Zack.
Yeah, we don't have to throw Zack and Miri or Yoga Hosers in there, but it's interesting to know, he's connecting other works into this world, which is cool, it makes things feel a lot bigger. But yeah, so we'll see you guys next with Mallrats.
Absolutely, I'm very excited to talk about it. One, because Mallrats is probably my favorite Kevin Smith movie, and also just because I've been watching a lot more clips with Kevin now that reboot is out, and he's doing all the press for it. So he's been on my mind, so I'll have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I can't wait. But we'll see you basement dwellers next time.
Have a happy Halloween, you guys.
Yeah.